Have you ever heard about an island that turned into a real magnet for sharks? And about a place that was converted into a nightmare for arachnophobes by hundreds of thousands of spiders? Or about an island teeming with dangerous snakes? It's worth having a look at. In this episode, you'll see places invaded by animals. Shark Island. All of us more than once watched films or heard some stories with people encountering sharks ashore and hardly escaping from attacks. It seemed to me those were just cinema byproducts and nothing of this kind could have happened in real life. Anyway, it turned out I was wrong. Island such as Reunion belongs to France, and it didn't stand out for anything against the background of other islands for a long time. However, everything has changed recently. In 2018, more than 50 shark attacks happened there, whereas between 2011 and 2016, Reunion was responsible for 20% of all the attacks of these predatory fish in the whole world. From that moment, almost the whole island was dotted with warning signs. The fishermen were banned from going sailing, and people strictly prohibited to bathe. Those are just separate, small coastal territories that are considered more or less safe. Even despite that, only a few people dared to swim there. People have been puzzled over the subject for a long time. They didn't understand why that happened and what was the real cause for such an interest from the side of the sharks. After all, this island used to be the same as other islands when suddenly the number of sharks around it started to grow considerably. Dozens of specialists tackled to study this area, and by joint forces they made correct conclusions rather quickly. There are two main reasons for what's happening. The first one is excessive fishing. Experts suggest that long-term fishing and catching small reef sharks, which competed with dangerous sharks for food and territory, eventually led to these dramatic consequences. Unfortunately, when predatory sharks ran out of food, they just had to go looking for it near the coast. In this case, the surfers play a role of injured fish, containing a lot of tasty meat. The second possible reason is muddy waters. Sharks like such conditions very much, and although there is no natural places like these on Reunion, the reason could be the construction of urban areas. Muddy fresh water gets into bays from cities. This water attracts sharks, and this is where the attacks take place most often. Thanks to this beautiful volcano, there are rich flora and fauna on the island, and this could be great if it didn't attract too much attention from predators. This way, there's nothing strange in such a large focus from these predators. However, the scientists are still not 100% sure in these versions. It's likely that a true reason for this shark invasion lies in something else, something people have no notion about yet. If you have your own theories, share them in the comments. Italico. What you hear now will turn upside down your notion of islands. Listen next. I think that an island invaded by spiders is the island where these arthropods live in slightly bigger numbers than usual. I'm sure that almost each of us had an analogical opinion about this subject. However, Italico is something special. This island in the Ionian Sea is fine all year round. In other words, it's always wonderful. After all, it's regularly invaded by hordes of spiders, which rapidly develop, seize territories, and eject poor people. As a result, the whole coastal line, including bushes, trees, and the scarce island infrastructure, are devoured by the web veil of incredible density, which, mildly speaking, looks frightening. This web, for your better understanding, is spread for more than 300 meters along the coastline. In addition, those are just the initial indicators. Later on, they increased in geometrical progression even more. So I'm afraid of even thinking about what may happen there now, this or the previous year. However, why is this happening? As well as in the case with sharks, everything has reasons. I'll tell you about them. Warm weather conditions first contributed to the spread of midges and other small insects, and then spiders. As it's known to science, the long-jawed orb weaver are capable of building big nests for mating, what they often do by the bodies of water. Their web is very dense, and an insect fallen in it doesn't stand a dog's chance of survival. This is exactly why these arthropods settled down well and started to live there successfully as long as the climate favored them. After all, nobody threatened them at that place. What's more, those regions were full of food. The only pleasant piece of news is that the spiders of this genus are indifferent to us humans. And it seems that there's no reasons for us to feel sad. I don't even know how you can keep calm under such conditions when you live where Spider-Man seems to have just exchanged blows. Rabbit Island. The island of Okunoshima is famous for other, more pleasant residents to contact with. This place, situated in the inner Japanese Sea near the city of Takahara, is known for a large population of rabbits. However, it was not always like this. You'll be surprised, but this island was erased from the world maps because super-secret laboratories developing chemical weapons were located on it. It was not for nothing that exactly this island was chosen to place them. It was perfectly isolated to maintain the needed level of secrecy and was far enough from Tokyo and other landmarks in case of an emergency event. How can such a serious place turn into a refuge for thousands of nice rabbits in a short period of time? Scientists don't know the answer to this question either. One of the versions states that the rabbits were brought there for pilot purposes, some gas experiments. When they passed them successfully, the fluffy animals were left as an honor or some kind of apology. Another version says that the first rabbits were brought there by children who came for an excursion. Many consider that's the truest version. But why were there so many rabbits there? Yes, this place is isolated from the predators. Yes, but that's not the reason why these animals swarmed here by hundreds or even thousands. However, people like it and they offer all the possible reasons to keep this phenomenon as long as possible. They ban hunting them and improve the neighborhoods, making rabbits' life much more pleasant and simpler. Queimada Grande. After receiving information about Okunoshima Island, it seems to me that rabbits can settle everywhere they like. You see, those are robust, very good at adapting and agile creatures, able to survive under any conditions. But now I'm ready to argue that Queimada Grande would exactly not be their new home. After all, this is a legendary island the snakes ejected every living creature from. Yes, you're not misheard, this is a snake island. There you won't find any other wild creatures. In the essence, these crawlers are the only inhabitants of the island. The scientists say that they're in abundance on the isle, 5 deadly creatures per square meter. For better or worse, there's always less snakes on the island. For the recent years alone, their amount has reduced approximately by 60%. Despite the fact that there are still many snakes there, it does take its toll on the common picture and future perspectives. By the way, it's Snake Island where a special crawler lives, one of the most venomous and unusual on the whole planet. Its name is the golden lancehead. The snake is a happy owner of the deadly toxin, standing for its serious concentration. Lancehead's bite causes instant tissue death that turns into necrosis. Poison is so powerful that it's able to dissolve organics in the bite site. There's no antitoxin to it, but the mortality record from the snake contact does not exceed 7%. As you understand, this creature uses that weapon only in special cases. For example, when you need to eject the last man from your native island so that the latter doesn't pry and doesn't bother. This story took place not so long ago. Until recently, Queimada Grande placed guards, one after another, each of which lived on the lighthouse and reported to the base about their observations. The amount of those eager to take this post was in decline. Anyway, good payment conditions kept the vacancy afloat. One more time, a man, together with his family, arrived at the island. They were accustomed to the neighborhood quickly, accurately moving around the island, didn't go out when it got dark, and sat inside the lighthouse almost all day long. Everything went right, but according to a legend, the snakes found their way inside and did their job. Next morning, nobody of the family members established a connection, and the base understood all. Nobody else wanted to live on the island anymore, and the lighthouse became automatic. Here's how the snakes finally ejected a man from the island, who is not so easy to get rid of. To fully enjoy the following island, we'll have to move to Japan. By the way, it's not for nothing that I chose the word enjoy. After all, Aoshima Island is a paradise for cats, which means for people as well. The island is situated 8 miles off the northern coast of the main isle, Shikoku. As you've already understood, it's famous for a huge number of the 4-legged fluffy friends. What you hear next will definitely surprise you. In the end of the 1940s, 1,000 residents lived on the island. The majority of them pursued fishery. However, if you dedicate your life to something similar, you must be ready and cope with difficulties that didn't keep them waiting. Very soon, the fishing vessels were attacked by rodents who spoiled fittings, made holes in their shipskin, and gnawed through gears. The most effective method of fighting against the rodents were cats. No, it wasn't about a mass introduction of these fluffy animals. Everything was restricted by the seamen who got 1 or 2 cats at home. Barely a couple of years had passed when they became so enthusiastic that the number of cats on the island exceeded the population of people. In 2023, for example, according to what one of the editions told, there were only 5 people left on the island and 10 times as many cats. Comes out that the animals were brought to the island to help people, and in fact, the latter were simply ejected. In all seriousness, cats, of course, couldn't get people away. The thing is that such life conditions were not ideal for people, but for cats, quite normal. That's why they exist, due to rich nature and generous tourists. Pig Beach. Our viewers who are good at English don't hesitate about who the next story will be about. We'll talk about pigs. We start from the fact that Pig Beach Island is in the shape of a shoe. Why it was called like this and why there's so many pigs on it, nobody will tell you. Many of the animals were brought there by accident. Possibly they settled down there on their own long ago. I don't know all that's mass commercial and hype of the island. Be that as it may, the island promotion campaign succeeded as people keep coming here regularly to see all that with their own eyes. The thing is that the tourists hardly moor when pigs approach them and fall aboard their ship. The only possibility to remain safe and sound is to pay them back with food. Just keep in mind that the pigs aren't interested in gold and jewels, they only take what you can eat. The wild animals got used to such attention from people and behaved really nice. There is not so much data about this island. In 2014, about 20 pigs lived there. Chincoteague Pony. I used to think that horses are creatures that live only under the careful supervision of people. However, this barrier island in the Atlantic Ocean proved that wrong. Some call this horse Assateague breed, others Chincoteague Pony. Despite such controversial names, these animals belong to one species. To be exact, not to the same species, but a breed. They were domesticated by the Europeans. These beauties come from Spain, and here you'll ask a logical question. Why did the creatures from Spain settle down in North America? So I'll tell you about that later without a failure. Now let me respond to another question: who they are, horses or ponies? However confused about their name we may be, these are horses of a short stature. They live on the 2 islands with the same name as the breed, Chincoteague and Assateague. Someone will say, what's surprising about it? They brought these horses to one or another island and they settled down there. But actually that's not the case. Assateague Island is divided between 2 American states, Virginia and Maryland. There's even a fence on the border. The residents of Virginia call their horses Chincoteague, while their neighbors, to differ in some way, Assateague. Nobody introduced them to the islands, history at least, is silent on this matter. It was for a long time that the wreckage theory was popular. Apparently the ship transported horses and wrecked, whereas the animals reached the land and started to develop there. Except that no facts about the ship can confirm the theory apart from rumors. This horse island was under the veil of mystery. People were puzzling over this until, at last, the first reasonable clue was discovered. It was a cow tooth. To be more precise, that was how it was taken initially. As it turned out, that was still a horse tooth, aged more than 400,000 years old. It means that the Spanish clove-hoofed animals existed there long ago, before this wreckage story. On the one hand, this added some details to the common puzzle, but on the other hand, made things more complicated. However, many people come to this surprising island, admire the herds of the clove-hoofed residents, take pictures, and just have a good time on it. The local flora and fauna is a real spectacle. Now we go to Amazonia. This is exactly where the biggest anaconda was discovered. The anaconda is the most massive snake of the modern world fauna. Based on confirmed information, the largest one caught was just over 16 feet long and weighed about 220 pounds. Sounds terrifying, doesn't it? It's even scary to imagine such a slithering monster, ready to devour everyone and everything in its path. But you haven't seen the next video yet. Here you don't have to imagine anything, because people filmed the snake on their own camera. This anaconda was lying somewhere near the Amazon River. The good thing was that the monster didn't move. It's likely that it could have been someone's stupid prank, but unfortunately, it's impossible to be sure of this. Given the fact that the people filmed the animal from a fairly long distance, the length of the snake clearly exceeds 16 feet, and it weighed more than 220 pounds. Do you think such a monster really lives in the waters of the Amazon? Or someone just thought to play a joke on tourists? Write in the comments. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if that snake video's true. After all, the Amazon really is home to a lot of different and at the same time scary creatures. And there's no mysticism here at all. Let's take the giant arapaima. The boaters in this video decided that they were not afraid of anything and boated along the river in unsafe places, where they quickly came upon something unusual. What's more, they had to chase the creature to catch it and capture it on camera. Luckily, it wasn't an alien that was planning to eat them. It was a mutated snake. It was a common giant arapaima, one of the largest freshwater fish in the world. Being of royal size, it's used to avoid fuss, choosing cozy water bodies covered with vegetation for a comfortable life. The giant does not like turbulent and rapid rivers, preferring to settle in small but cozy kingdom of ooze and algae. That's why it's quite rare to encounter an arapaima in the Amazon. By the way, did you know that this fish has an unusual coating of lungs and swim bladder? In the arapaima, it allows the fish to breathe ordinary air. The manner of breathing of the giant cannot be confused with anyone. For a breath of fresh air, the arapaima rises to the surface, sticks out and creates a funnel, opening its mouth wide. The size of these giants usually does not exceed 6.5 feet in length, but there are individuals which are 10 to 13 feet long. These monsters weigh up to 440 pounds. As you've probably already realized, the Amazon River is home to many different and dangerous creatures. However, there's always a bigger fish, or in this case, a more dangerous one. However, I'm not talking about fish, I'm talking about the black caiman, a very large and incredibly strong animal that lives in a wide area of the Amazon basin. The multi-meter long monster, covered with armor, is ready to eat absolutely any prey at any moment because its teeth can deal with anything. The black caiman's diet is based on piranhas, turtles, birds, monkeys, deer, and capybaras. In catching and immobilizing these animals, the black caiman is helped not only by razor-sharp teeth, but also by a long and extremely powerful tail, with the tip of which the crocodile is able to cut flesh like a knife through butter. Unfortunately, the aggressive nature of the animal extends not only to other inhabitants of the wild environment, but also to humans. So encountering this animal is highly undesirable. However, there are some explorers who are ready to personally feed the death. This man took out a huge piece of meat and started waving it right in front of the black caiman. The animal didn't hesitate long and crawled out onto land, where it quickly devoured the food. The man was spared. Giant otter. Giant otters are the largest of the freshwater otters. They have long, massive bodies that can reach as much as 6.5 feet in length. They mainly feed on fish and crabs. Giant otters hunt in groups of 3 or even 8 family members. After watching them for just a few seconds, it can seem that they're completely harmless, sweet, and kind to everyone around them. How could such a beautiful creature harm anyone? Believe me, the giant otter can do it. It's not for nothing that it's on the list of the most dangerous creatures in the Amazon. Here's an interesting fact. Locals call these creatures river wolves. That's because the strength and aggressiveness of giant otters is more than enough to deal both with the black caiman and the giant anaconda. Surprisingly, this is not fiction at all. There were cases when a group of giant otters didn't leave even a trace of a black caiman in 40 minutes. It's likely that the lion's share of their hunting success is due to communication, which other creatures lack. Giant otters have separate sound signals for many occasions, such as a demonstration of friendliness or, conversely, aggression, as well as a manifestation of calm or anxiety. A group of these cute monsters always behave loud and actively because they simply have nothing to fear. Of course, dangerous and large monsters are found not only in the Amazon. Next, I'll tell you about other creatures that are best avoided. It'll be interesting. The Queen of the Ocean. Who do you think should be given this title? Logically, someone dangerous, voracious, and strong, with fins and, I'll give you a little clue, perhaps even with white color. Of course, the Queen of the Ocean is the great white shark. Wanting to encounter this monster in person rather than watch continuous videos or movies featuring it online, a group of researchers from the O-Search company went on a month-long expedition near Nova Scotia. The purpose of this trip was to collect cell and blood samples from large sharks. This could help scientists better understand the predator's migration patterns across the North Atlantic. Of course, the people expected to catch something big, but not that big. Luck smiled on them, and they hooked a 50-year-old grandmother shark who was quickly given the name Nukumi. This name, by the way, was chosen for a reason. In the Mi'kmaq Native American people, Nukumi is a figure of a wise grandmother who's very popular. It's to this people that the coastal lands of Nova Scotia originally belong, where the monster was found. The shark found by scientists weighed over 3,300 pounds, and its length was more than 16 feet. And if we take into account the fact that even the smallest shark of this species can cause serious damage, it becomes scary to talk about the strength of the grip of this monster. Yes, sharks are deservedly considered incredibly dangerous sea creatures that are best avoided. Their signature dorsal fin, which protrudes horrifically out of the water in many Hollywood movies, terrifies anyone who comes across them. But are sharks really the kings and queens of the underwater world? Why do many modern scientists change their opinions and give the title to orcas? Let's get to the bottom of it. Let's start with the fact that purely in terms of appearance, I would give them 10 out of 10 on a cuteness scale. They're very smooth, have nice colors, no protruding teeth or even sharp lines. That's just the peak of harmony and perfection. If you saw such a creature near you, would you be scared? Something tells me that you might have felt uncomfortable, but the fact that it's not a shark would have calmed you down. In addition, the orca is very similar to ordinary dolphins, which is another argument to trust them. The largest orca ever recorded was 32.1 feet long and weighed just over 10 tons. Its perfectly streamlined body shape and agility made even such a large individual one of the fastest marine animals. An orca can speed up to 34 miles per hour without any problems. This song of kindness played until now, until the orca opened its mouth. There's a string of teeth, each of which is 4 inches long or more. They're all razor sharp. Also, the orca has an incredibly powerful bite. To give you an idea of how powerful it is, here's a recent study. It's not yet officially confirmed, but it does give you a good idea. According to scientists, the most powerful bite force among modern animals can be in the orca, and it's 84,000 newtons. By comparison, the great white shark has a bite force of around 18,000 newtons. Blue whale. However, there are some creatures on the planet that are not interested in all sorts of bite force, conflicts, brawls, and other things at all. One of the main supporters of this movement is the blue whale, which is the largest animal in the world in its history. Its length reaches 108 feet, and its weight can significantly exceed 150 tons. I think that no matter how powerful the bite force of some predator is, it simply cannot deal with such a giant. Fortunately, the blue whale feeds mainly on krill and slightly less frequently on larger crustaceans, small fish, and cephalopods. Therefore, none of the other creatures will have to fight with it. By the way, do you know what its snacking process looks like? To eat, the big creature opens its mouth and swims, slowly absorbing the water with food. Then it closes its mouth and pushes all the excess liquid back out with its nimble tongue. The food remains inside, settles on its baleen, and is soon swallowed by the animal. The stomach of this creature can hold more than 2,200 pounds of food at a time. Stay with us. Later on, I'll tell you about the biggest fish caught by fishermen, a prehistoric fish, and an incredible encounter with a sea monster. But what is a far more pleasant and far better known creature is the ocean sunfish, a sea giant which has almost no vertebrae and at the same time such an unimaginable size. I don't see much point in talking about the ocean sunfish, so I suggest we get straight to the catching. Fishermen caught one of the largest representatives of this species in history. Its weight was almost 3 tons. The previous record holder, so you understand, weighed less by as much as 1,100 pounds. The length of the caught individual exceeded 10 feet. Height was about the same size. To determine which of the 3 currently known species the giant found near the Azores belonged to, the researchers carefully studied it and conducted a genetic analysis of tissue samples. As a result, it was found that, like the previous record holder, this individual belonged to the ocean sunfish species. To catch this creature in a natural environment when it's full of strength and energy is almost an impossible task. However, this individual, as later reported, had one problem. It had a dent on its head, which means that it could have hit a rock or a ship and lost consciousness. That's probably why they managed to catch it. Kraken. Everything is clear with the existence of this mystical creature. Everybody knows that it's nothing more than fairy tales and fiction of writers, right? However, even before people began to make up stories, long before the internet appeared, with the help of word of mouth, people from all over the world still heard one story that gives chills. On November 30th, 1861, a French steam-driven corvette was on its way to Guyana. Nothing foretold trouble when suddenly the lookout on duty yelled, "Captain, there's a large unknown carcass right ahead. What do we do?" Lieutenant Frederick Bowie ordered the men to get closer to the mysterious object. The men realized that it was unlikely to be something alive, as its size was too fantastic. There was nothing to be afraid of, and soon each of the crew members regretted it many times over. It turned out that before the men was the very real Kraken, a living monster of the depths about which they had only heard from scary bedtime stories. The captain of the ship was faced with a choice: retreat or take the chance and take the rare prey with him. The man chose the second option. The circumstances of the ensuing 3-hour battle were later reconstructed in detail by the French zoologist Bernard Hevelmans, who devoted his life to the search for rare and unusual creatures. The French rained a hail of bullets on the mysterious object and began throwing harpoons at it. However, bad weather, which raised too high waves, made it difficult to catch the animal. The creature constantly changed course, but made no attempt to dive deep into the ocean. The corvette pursued it relentlessly, and at one point managed to get almost close, firing a harpoon at it. It seemed that just a little more and the creature would die, but the effort was not enough. A strong wave pushed Bowie's ship away, and the Kraken managed to hide in the water. The 2-ton body plummeted back into the water with a deafening splash, leaving only its tail as a souvenir to the people. That's all, guys. Which animal impressed you the most? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you later.